Oh, boy, I'm so sorry. I didn't see your bag. I can find somewhere else, but...
It's fine. There's nowhere else to sit anyway. Don't apologize.
That was really nice, actually.
His name is Cooper. He's 9. Been working on that volcano for 3 weeks.
Papier-mâché?
The plumber walked in while I was showering, but what he said next changed my life forever. The plumber walked in while I was showering, but what he said next changed my life forever. I had lived alone for 3 years. 3 years since the divorce. 3 years since Daniel packed 2 suitcases, kissed our daughter on the forehead, and walked out. The 3 years since Daniel packed 2 suitcases, kissed our daughter on the forehead, and walked out the front door without looking back at me. 3 years of figuring out what a leaking faucet sounds like at 2 a.m., what it feels like to eat dinner alone while the news plays too loudly in the background, what silence really means when there's no one left to fill it. So in the shower in the background, what silence really means when there's no one left to fill it. So when the shower in the master bathroom started making that horrible grinding noise, like metal eating itself alive, I did what any independent woman does. I called a plumber. His name on the work order was Caleb Monroe. The company website said he had 12 years of experience and a 5-star rating. What the website didn't say was that he would show up 15 minutes early, that I would completely forget he was coming, or that the moment I stepped under the hot water to wash away 3 days of exhaustion, the bathroom door would creak open. I screamed. He shouted. Something metal clattered to the tile floor. I'm so sorry. His voice was muffled, choked, clearly mortified. The dispatch said 10 o'clock. I rang the bell twice. The door was unlocked. I thought the house was empty. I swear to God I didn't. I'm so sorry, ma'am. I grabbed my towel so fast I nearly slipped. My heart was hammering against my towel so fast I nearly slipped. My heart was hammering against my ribs. I yanked the curtain shut even though the water was still running, even though steam was fogging the mirror, even though the man was clearly already retreating because I could hear his boots backing up on the tile and then the door swinging shut with a quiet, almost apologetic click. I stood there for a full 30 seconds, just breathing. Then, slowly, the embarrassment shifted into something else. He had sounded genuinely horrified. Not amused, not predatory, just completely, catastrophically embarrassed, like a man who wanted not predatory, just completely, catastrophically embarrassed, like a man who wanted nothing more than for the floor to swallow him whole. I turned off the water and got dressed. When I walked downstairs, Caleb Monroe was standing in my kitchen with his tool bag at his feet, his cap in his hands, and the expression of a man preparing to receive a full prison sentence. He was taller than I expected. Dark hair, slightly preparing to receive a full prison taller than I expected. Dark hair, slightly damp at the temples from the summer heat outside. Blue-collared work shirt with the company logo on the chest. He looked up when he heard me on the stairs and immediately looked back down. I owe you an enormous apology, he said quietly. I knocked. I rang the bell. I called the number on the work order and it went straight to voicemail. The door pushed open when I knocked a 3rd time. I genuinely thought no one was home. I should have waited outside. I don't know. I'm sorry. If you want to file a complaint, I completely understand. I looked at him for a moment. Do you want coffee? I asked. He blinked, slowly, like I'd said something in a language he hadn't expected. What? Coffee. I walked past him toward the Keurig on the counter. You look like you're about to pass out from embarrassment, and honestly so do I, so maybe coffee helps. There was a pause so long I almost regretted the offer. Sure, he said finally. Thank you. His name was Caleb. He was 39. He'd grown up in Cincinnati. His name was Caleb. He was 39. He'd grown up in Cincinnati, moved to Charlotte after his own divorce 4 years ago, started his own small plumbing business when the corporate job he'd held for a decade quietly eliminated his entire department in a single Monday morning email. I learned all of this not because I pried, but because we both stood in my kitchen with our coffee cups, and sometimes 2 strangers who have survived humiliation together find it oddly easy to talk. The shower problem is probably the pressure valve, he said eventually, nodding toward the ceiling. Takes about an hour to fix. Might need a new part if it's corroded, he said eventually, nodding toward the ceiling. Takes about an hour to fix. Might need a new part if it's corroded. Go ahead, I said. He nodded, picked up his bag, and headed upstairs. I sat at the kitchen table and opened my laptop and tried to work, but I kept catching myself listening to the sounds coming from upstairs. The familiar sounds of someone else's bed, catching myself listening to the sounds coming from upstairs. The familiar sounds of someone else being present in the house, footsteps, the faint clank of a wrench, the water turning on and off in short bursts. I hadn't realized how much I'd missed that, the simple sound of someone else moving through the same space. My daughter Emma came home from summer school at noon. She was 8 years old, loud in the way only 8-year-olds can be, and she dropped her backpack directly and was 8 years old, loud in the way only 8-year-olds can be. And she dropped her backpack directly in the center of the hallway before noticing the boots by the stairs. "Mom," she called out. "Is someone here?" "Plumber," I called back from the kitchen. "Fixing the shower." She appeared in the kitchen doorway, cheeks flushed from the heat outside, hair in a messy ponytail. She looked at me, then at the 2 coffee cups still on the counter. "You had coffee with the plumber? Don't make it weird, Emma. I'm 8. I don't make things weird. That's a you thing." I pointed at the refrigerator. "Go get your lunch." Caleb came downstairs, pointed at the refrigerator. "Go get your lunch." Caleb came downstairs 40 minutes later. The grinding noise was gone. He walked me through what he'd replaced, showed me photos on his phone of the corroded valve, explained the 2-year warranty on the new part. Professional. Thorough. The kind of man who clearly took pride in doing the job right. I walked him to the door. He paused on the porch, cap back on his head, tool bag over his shoulder. He turned back once. For what it's worth, his head, tool bag over his shoulder. He turned back once. "For what it's worth," he said, "I really am sorry about this morning. That's not who I am." I looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time without the haze of embarrassment between us. "I know," I said, and I meant it. He nodded. Took 2 steps down the porch stairs. "Caleb, I don't know what made me say it. Something about the afternoon light. Something about 3 years of silence. Something about a man who showed up with his cap in his hands, and the face of someone who still believed in doing right." Brasta says. A slow smile, the face of someone who still believed in doing right by people, even when no one was watching. He turned. "The coffee was good, right?" I said. A slow smile crossed his face. Just one side of it, like he was testing it out, making sure it still worked. "Best cup I've had in a while," he said. He came back the following Saturday, not for plumbing. I had texted the number on the work order, which I told myself was ridiculous, and did anyway, and asked if he wanted to grab coffee somewhere that wasn't my kitchen, somewhere with no accident anyway, and asked if he wanted to grab coffee somewhere that wasn't my kitchen, somewhere with no accidental walk-ins and no tool bags. He responded in 4 minutes. I'd really like that. We met at a small cafe downtown that Emma had once described as the place that smells like cinnamon and good decisions. We stayed for 2 hours, then 2 more. We talked about divorce and how it breaks you in places you don't expect. About starting over in your 40s and how terrifying and quietly thrilling it is. About daughters who are too smart for their own good, and fathers who are learning to show up better than their own dads did. He told me about us for their own good, and fathers who are learning to show up better than their own dads did. He told me about his son Liam, who was 10 and obsessed with astronomy, who could name every moon of Jupiter and once cried at a documentary about the Hubble telescope decommissioning. I told him about Emma, who had informed me last week that she planned to be either a surgeon or a professional dog influencer, depending on the market. Caleb laughed, a real laugh from somewhere deep in his chest, and I realized I had forgotten what it sounded like when someone laughed beside you and it felt like warmth instead of performance. 3 months later, he fixed my kitchen faucet, then the garage door sensor, then the broken hinge on the back gate that I'd been ignoring since April. Emma started calling him the fix-it guy, which she said in a tone that made it clear she meant something far beyond plumbing. I didn't correct her. One evening in October, the 3 of us sat on the back porch after dinner. Emma was showing Caleb. The 3 of us sat on the back porch after dinner. Emma was showing Caleb her drawings. She'd started a comic strip that fall about a girl detective who solved crimes using only her dog and her extremely inconvenient ability to always tell when adults were lying. Caleb was reading each panel with the focused, respectful attention of someone who understood that an 8-year-old's creative work deserves to be taken seriously. I watched him turn the pages carefully. I watched Emma watch him. I thought about the morning he'd watched him turn the pages carefully. I watched Emma watch him. I thought about the morning he'd walked through my door by accident, mortified and apologetic, cap in his hands. I thought about how sometimes life's most important arrivals don't knock first. Sometimes they ring the bell twice and let themselves in, and they are so sorry about it, and then they stay. And it turns out that staying is exactly what you needed. Later, after Emma was in bed, Caleb and I sat on the porch steps in the cool October dark. "She's going to be something extraordinary," he said quietly. "She already is," I said. He looked over at me, something soft, and he said quietly, "She already is," I said. He looked over at me, something soft in his expression, something steady. "So are you," he said. "Just so you know." I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. I leaned, my head against his shoulder, and he didn't move away. And the night was quiet. And for the first time in 3 years, the silence felt like something other than emptiness. It felt like the beginning of something whole. Some things break so that something better can come in. And sometimes the best things in your life arrive through an unlocked door.